she's, I mean, you know, you remember kids in your first and your last class.
I got a whole page. I drew the short story. I was only at that meeting for
Well, I think John Woodard would get.
Well, that's why you should have to read it.
Yeah.
I'll do it if you want.
These are just massive.
Robert prayers, what is that?
How many apps?
For math?
Yeah. Did Allison Lights apply? She's from
She has the form?
whatever
Oh,
they call
you
it.
told me about her before. No,
Yeah,
she did not.
and she, you know, she said she
Okay.
would pray about it. And I've said to her, I've been there, done that, prayed, but you gotta think of yourself. 'Cause
Yeah.
I know what she's not making.
Right. Okay.
Oh.
Is that right?
Actually, I really like him.
Yeah. Well, he came on at the end of
He's
the
a
year.
cool,
Never mind.
that's good news. I mean, I stand up in Michigan,
Yeah.
he's like that
That's
too.
great.
Are these
He's
on?
good.
All right, it is 5:30. We are going to go ahead and get started. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we will start with introductions. Dr. Powell,
Julie Powell?
Griffin Ott.
Bill Scaletta.
Greg Eating.
Rachel Wade,
Jason Beckrow.
Kevin Bushu.
Scott Allen.
Lori Van Koenig? I hate to use that.
Okay, approval of the agenda. Board members, you've had a chance to look at the agenda for tonight's meeting. Any questions, comments? If not, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved. Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Again, you've had a chance to look at that. Any questions? Sure.
I'll make a motion
I think we have some
Waiting for technical assistance.
technical assistance going on over here. I think we're just going to be patient for a minute. Yay.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the consent action agenda?
So moved.
Support.
This will be a roll call vote. So Mr. Ott,
Aye.
Mr. Scaletta,
Aye.
Dr. Beckrow,
Aye.
Mr. Bushu,
Aye.
Mr. Allen,
Aye.
Mrs. Von Koenig,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Okay, good news about our schools. What do we have tonight?
You know, we get an opportunity to hear from Stewart Elementary. I see them kind of making their way up. They're going to be sharing information about their Salmon in the Classroom program.
Good
Perfect.
evening. Hello. We are so excited to be here to share with you this evening about a really cool program that we actually started this year at Stewart Elementary called Salmon in the Classroom. It's a program that's offered through the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, the DNR. And what is it? Oh, okay. I thought she was correcting me. I was like, I might have gotten the DNR wrong. But we have a group of 4th and 5th grade students here who are going to tell you about this program. So we have 2 educators who chose to join this program at Stewart Elementary this year, Mrs. Micarelli Page and Mrs. Ayers. It's important for us to note that the salmon, once we receive the eggs, they have to care for them every single day, which means that these educators have been coming to Stewart Elementary daily since November to take care of these fish over Christmas break, over spring break. Every break they come in to change the water and take care of the salmon. It's also important to note that these lovely fish heads behind me are now experts in salmon, and they're going to talk to you about our plan to release the eggs into a local stream that will then hopefully help us to have these fish in Lake Michigan. So without further ado, I present to you Mrs. Mickarelli Page, Mrs. Ayers, Mr. Arlo Galloway, Mr. Adler Garib, who's in 5th grade, 4th grade, and then Miss Rezegi. So.
Absolutely. Do you need help with that?
Possibly. I think you can even take it off, take the mic off the stand.
There you go.
Stuart, salmon in the classroom.
Awesome.
So for this, we had, when we kind of first got the tank, our water temperature is supposed to be at about 52, and it was at 69 because unfortunately our chiller got unplugged over winter break. So, and then our pH is supposed to be about 7.6, so 8 wasn't too bad. Our ammonia is supposed to be at 0, as well as our nitrite and nitrate, so them being higher than 0 was a little bit concerning. And then our KH and GH were good.
This is like when we got the eggs, the number of eggs we got 123. Water temperature was 52, and that was good. pH was good. The ammonia and nitrate were pretty good. The nitrate was not the best. It was supposed to be a 0, but it's 30. And the KH and the GH are good.
And then we have our egg stage, and if you see in the right corner, there's one that is like all gooey. That one just kind of exploded. Like nothing ever hatched, it just popped. But the cool thing about the eggs was that there would be like these little eyes, and it was literally their eye that you could see through the egg.
Well, most of this stages were. Oh, man, I forgot.
You're okay.
What it was called.
You're all right. Okay, bud.
They would look like they had they would look like they had an egg on their belly, which would be their yolk sac to keep them fed, and that would be the first stage of them turning into salmon.
Very good.
This is the buttoning up stage. You can see that there's a dead fish that you could see that's buttoning up. It's like turning into a real fish.
We have a couple odd salmon. In the right bottom corner, we have who we call One-Eyed Willie. He had just kind of a hole for an eye. And then in Miss Ayers' class,
We had a two-headed fish and one that was bunched up in a circle. Yeah, it did.
and then the one that's circled in red, he decided he wanted a snack, and that wasn't feeding time, so he ate one of his little buddies. And then in the picture to the left of that one, there's another picture of him, and he wanted a snack. And then the one above him, I call him Mr. S. He's just spiny and like really curved.
This is the 1922 was the first day we started feeding them. They had no clue what was happening. Then one of the latest days, they once the lid opens, they go top of the tank.
So these are just some things, we just kind of asked some kids some questions on how the Salmon in the Classroom project has like affected them in the classroom or how it's just affected them in general, and these are some of the things that they said.
Adler, I'm gonna have you talk a little bit about, he has been my fish guy. He cleans his tank aggressively. He gets in there, fish poop and all. So do you wanna tell them a little bit about what your job has been in the classroom with the fish tank?
My job has been to keep to change the water mostly, and sometimes feed the fish, and sometimes like they like poop a lot, so it's like smears like on the bottom because there's like mountains of it. So I'm the one that cleans it. And plus, whenever you like get your hand in the water, it's like freezing cold, but not like super cold. But everyone else, when they do it, they're like, because how cold it is.
And then that's just a couple pictures of us working on our slides. And it really helps to have the salmon in the class because, you know, like after a hard day of working in school, you can just kind of get a break and look at the salmon. And every once in a while, we'll have like things like, we have this one game, it's called like the Great Swim. And we have to like roll a dice and then go to a different station, and it's kind of like how a salmon would live. Sometimes you get caught, and sometimes you get picked up by birds, and it's really fun.
This is how like we're involved. This is like when we're testing the water, see if it was good, and then on the right top and bottom corners, it's us like studying on the tank and like what's going on.
So for our tank, we've been having really bad nitrite, and it's really toxic and kind of like suffocates our fish. So like every day we do a 25% water change, and then we add aquarium salt to kind of help the fish with their stress levels. And at first we thought maybe we had like cleaned the tank too well and we didn't have any good bacteria. And so we put some live bacteria in, and then we realized that didn't actually work.
And plus, our water, we have very clean water because we tend to keep it in perfect shape, because if there's like something wrong with it, we would like do it instantly to keep it from going very badly, because most of the time it's not bad, it's like a little bad.
We hope you enjoyed our presentation.
So where did you get the fish? Do you know which hatchery they came from?
We got it, the Wolf Lake hatchery.
Okay, good, very good. On M43.
Do you have to use a special type of water, or do you just use the water out of the faucet?
You use the water in the faucet, I think. Okay. And then like when we're releasing our fish, we're going to Mrs. Emma uncle's house because they live over by a stream, right?
When is that? What day is that? Or is it? 21st of
April.
Wow.
Like a
How
graduation
big are the
day.
fish right now?
Pretty big.
Yeah. They're in the smolt phase, which is the stage we are releasing them in, which they're big enough, but they're still growing. We have this fish named Billy Bob Joe. He's our biggest fish, and yeah.
Cool.
Our biggest fish is remember I compared him to the smallest one, which the smallest one is like super small. Yeah. And he's like the biggest one is like triple his size.
Yeah,
Wow.
sizes.
How many fish do you guys have left?
Like 70?
Found 2 dead this morning on the ground, which is unfortunate.
Wow,
They
did
can
it
get
jump
out of
out?
the little cracks.
You said they flopped out of the
Yeah, I don't know how they got out, but two were dead this morning, which is sad because they were pretty good.
We had a flopper as well.
glass panel that is
I know, I'm sorry, Edler.
So who named One-Eyed Willie? Hmm?
Um,
Did you name him after Goonies? After Goonies. Okay.
Board members, any other questions? What is one of the biggest things that you guys have learned from doing this project?
having all the responsibilities and like taking care of stuff can help you take caring of the fish can help you take care of everything else in your life.
Very nice.
Yeah, maybe you should clean your rooms as well as you clean the tank.
I don't know about that.
I tried.
Amazing. I love it.
Good job, guys.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us tonight.
That was awesome.
All right, moving on to Superintendent Informational Report. Mr. Eating.
Yeah, I want to first say that, talking specifically to Mr. Bill Scaletta, One-Eyed Willie and the other one was
Billy Bob.
Billy Bob.
Joe, Billy Bob Joe.
I felt a little bit bad for you, but Mr. Scaletta. We are in the final weeks of the vote for our bond project. It's been a very energetic and fun to participate with a very good group of parents on getting out the information about what the project will cover. I would like to encourage anyone who has questions or wants to know more about the project to check out our website, lakeshorepublicschools.net. We have a lot more forums coming up in the next couple of weeks, so it's going to be a busy few weeks. We have some big news that happened in our last board meeting. I would like to, since our last board meeting, I would like to congratulate Dr. Julie Powell on the announcement of her retirement from Lakeshore. Dr. Powell began with Lakeshore in 2012 and is retiring with almost 33 years of experience in public education. She has accepted a position with Ball State University to work as an online assistant professor in their educational leadership department. I'd like to applaud Julie for the amazing work she did for Lakeshore and wish her the very best in this next chapter of life. Congratulations, Julie. And I'm sure there'll be more in celebrating the retirement at a later time. So, and in the same breath, I would like to congratulate our high school principal, who's also, I see in the room, Mr. Jeff Yockstetter. He has been selected as the next Assistant Superintendent of Innovation and Personalized Learning at Berrien Springs Community Schools. Jeff began working for Lakeshore in 2005 as a math teacher. He later moved on into an assistant principal role in 2015 and has been our high school principal since 2019. And we are very sad to see Jeff go, and yet we want to wish him the very best as he moves into this amazing career opportunity. Thanks, Jeff. And we do know that change can be very hard, and filling these two important roles will be a very high priority for us over the next few weeks. I'm excited to build this new team. It'll be good. So thank you.
Yeah, so in that same theme, Julie, thank you for your time at Lakeshore. You've done important things here, most notably within the HR role that you fulfill, especially in the last few years as districts around us have struggled and often gone without filling key teaching positions. Lakeshore hasn't had that. You've been able to keep us very well staffed. So thank you for your service and leadership at Lakeshore. It's greatly appreciated. And Jeff, you've helped empower students to play an active role, not only in their own education, but also in the life of the community and the world around them. And that's a really important thing to teach our students. And it's obvious that you care about them and their success very deeply. So thank you for the time that you have dedicated to Lakeshore. Moving on to Board of Education reports. Administrative Affairs, Mr. Ott.
The Administrative Affairs Committee met on March 28th at 7:15 a.m. Present at the meeting were Kevin Bushu, Lori Von Koenig, Julie Powell, Greg Eating, and myself. The committee discussed the progress of the bond communication, agenda items for the board workshop, and ideas for a district-wide strategic planning process.
Thank you.
Facilities and Finance, Mr. Bushu.
On Monday, March 13th, after the regular board meeting, the Facilities and Finance Committee met, consisting of Rachel Wade, Griffin Ott, Greg Eating, Tracy Althouse, and myself. Items discussed but not limited to including the following. Tracy presented the monthly financials, including cash flow, budget to actual, investment summary, and building and site spending. Nothing unusual was noted. Greg discussed that we're working on setting up a date and time for our field house open house to honor the amazing contribution from Bob and Betty Cohn. More information to follow on that. And Greg and Tracy talked about the governor's budget and how it will affect Lakeshore, as well as potential contract management committee impacts. And then on Tuesday, April 4th, the committee met again, consisting of Rachel Wade, Griffin Ott, Greg Eating, Tracy Althouse, and myself. The following items were discussed. Monthly financials were presented, including the building and site projects, investments, and checks written. Other building and site projects that are less than bid amounts were discussed, including a walkway between the high school and the field house, as well as additional lighting and security cameras near the soccer field. We will be asking the board to approve 3 equipment bids tonight for our CTE department. The equipment will be funded with 61C money, which is passed through Barry and RISA. The equipment includes an augmented reality welder, a Tormach CNC lathe, and a Toyota Prius Gen 3 hybrid trainer. Tracy presented budget modification number 3, which will also be presented tonight. In addition, she went over a very preliminary 23-24 budget estimate. More information regarding next year's budget will be coming in the next few weeks. Greg discussed safety and security meetings that he has been having with our school resource officer, as well as parents following the tragedy last month. Many great ideas have come out of these meetings. The refunding of the 2013 bond met our requirements of at least a 5% savings. The district will realize interest cost savings over the life of the refunded bonds of over $1.8 million. This is great news for our taxpayers as the district looks for ways to give back to the community.
So I just wanted to pause briefly and offer the board any comments that they might want to provide to the public in regards to the refinancing of the bond. This is the 2013 bond, and saving up to almost just shy of $2 million, and that money all going to our taxpayers back again. So it comes at a really interesting time as we're going out for another bond right now. So it's important that as we talk about this in the public, that it's a situation that people know that we're trying to save the district money, trying to be really fiscally responsible with our finances, while at the same point in time, we do see some needs, and asking the voters to approve the $19.9 million bond right now.
I think that's the important part, is that the refinancing isn't necessarily saving the district 1.8, it is saving the taxpayers, because we're passing that savings along through a reduced
tax rate,
adjusted tax rate for those 2013 bond. Historically, there have been districts that kind of use that money and hold on to it. But we thought it was important that we use the money as it was approved by the taxpayers, and if we're saving on those financing, that also needs to go back to the taxpayers.
Correct. Any other comments on that? Excellent.
Thank you to Tracy for all the work in
Yeah.
putting that together, and
It's a lot of
to
work.
Greg and Griffin and Lori, who had to sign their signature 42 times on the documentation.
I will say that one of the great things that came out of this was we had to go out to get a bond rating again, and the district received a AA minus. Now, you don't want to necessarily publicize a AA minus, but the truth of it is that's better than an A plus, a single A plus. So a AA minus puts us into the top 12% of all districts in the state in terms of our fiscal viability in the state. So that's excellent news for us.
Wonderful. Okay, moving on to the Policy Committee. Mr. Allen.
The policy committee met on April 6th at 4:30 p.m. Present at the meeting were Lori Von Koenig, Greg Eating, and myself. Committee discussed some parent concerns about library books, the policies that are in place regarding curriculum in library books, and ideas for communicating to parents about the procedures and policies, and thoughts on using a board workshop to consider any major changes to these procedures and policies.
Yeah, again, just pausing a second to address this issue. It's come to the board on several occasions through public comment and through some conversations with community members for the last several months. And I think, I'm going to be putting out a letter to the entire district in regards to this. And the letter is a little bit, I use the word vanilla, but at the same point in time, it does meet the needs and the policies that we have in place. And it also lets the public know that, we are wanting to review this right now and see if there's any tweaks that we would want to make in that process of attaining books and how we might put books on the shelf. So other districts are re-looking at it as well. So we have we're maybe a month behind them, which is kind of nice. And we can kind of see what kind of comes out of some of those ideas too. Even as of today, I think we scheduled our board workshop for May 22nd. So that'll be a great opportunity for us to talk a little bit more about it. So any questions on that at all?
The points we have before us, are these in the minutes?
No, this is just really some information just in case you had any thoughts and wanted to know more about.
I think at some point, maybe not tonight, we should discuss this and read these into the minutes. Again, the concepts here, just for those listening or might be tuning in, that parents can opt their child out of any book. That's not a new policy. That's always been the policy.
Correct.
In fact, there's nothing here on this document that is necessarily new. Is that correct?
Correct.
Including the appeal processes and various accommodations for any parents or families based on their personal or religious values.
Right, and what I did is really took the letter that I'm sending out to parents, took basically the points that I'm making in that letter, and put these in bullet points in front of you just in case, so you didn't have to go through a whole letter to look at it. Yeah. So that's so you can have it right in front of you. So, yeah, challenges can be made to remove any book from the library. We have not received any challenges as of yet, which is what it is. And if a family has a religious or value system conflict with the curriculum, the family can exclude their child out of that curriculum. And those are situations I think that we've had forever.
But generally with an alternative assignment, though.
Yeah, usually an alternative assignment. Sometimes that's harder than easier. I will say that the one caveat to that is if it's a state mandated piece, then you still have to follow through with it. So.
I just appreciate that we're taking a look at it. We've had a lot of public comment on it. I think it shows what you do for the district is always review these things. We've got the policies, but it's always good to take a look and see if they're, still working the way we'd like them to work, or if there's any additional things that we need to add. So I think that goes a long way to show that we are listening. Sure. and kind of taking those things to heart.
And I appreciate that, Greg, I know you've met with parents regarding this issue, and I know Mr. Ott and Mrs. Von Koenig have met with parents as well who wanted to talk through things and really kind of understand on both sides, right, from both sides, kind of what the issues were. And I appreciate the openness and the willingness to have those conversations.
And I think we did, and we will at the workshop as well, we've done our due diligence in addressing all of the concerns that the parents had. And I think that our May 22nd workshop will be very productive.
Yes, agreed.
Thank you.
And one side note to this, I think it spurred some more conversation about wanting to provide opportunities for the public to have more interaction with the board. So some future ideas of doing some, I use the word forums or whatever you want to call them, conversations with the board, coffee with the board, whatever you want to call it, where we put 3 board members together so we're not in a quorum situation, and can do that a few times a year to provide that opportunity. So I think that'd be great. Looking forward to scheduling those probably starting next school year or the summer or next school year kind of a thing, and doing maybe them quarterly or at least 3 times a year. So anyway, just another idea.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for the discussion. Moving on to quarterly budget modification number 3. Tracy.
It is going to be short and sweet, as you can tell, my voice is going. I've kind of been under the weather a little bit.
Probably want to put that microphone by there.
Okay. So basically, in April, what we do for budget modification number 3 is if there's anything very large outstanding that we've done, or it's a bunch of reclasses. Typically, this isn't a budget amendment where I have a lot to present or to say. This one, we did have a couple things. So basically, we go from projected revenues of a little north of $3 million to $34.9 million. That, we would say, is pretty darn significant. What that is basically a pass-through of money from the state of Michigan that we get to hold for maybe 10 days, and then we have to remit it to MIPSers. So basically, a little over 1.5 million that we just get to have in our bank account for a couple of days and then give it to the state of Michigan. What we get in, we obviously have to then spend. So we have our projected revenues went from 33.9 million to a little short of 36.8 million. What else we've had in there is we did get interest income. That was a pretty large increase, so interest rates have gone up, so we're making some money on that. We continually look at what investments we hold. And also, I'm deferring some of our our ESSER money, as we will be spending it next year, just based on how other grants came in. We've received Section 31AA grants and some additional 97 grants that we're going to be using this year, so we have to defer something, so some of that money is going to be deferred to next year. The other things that we spent money on, besides giving the money back to the state of Michigan and the reclasses, we had some safety grant expenditures that would apply to that 97 grant. And the other thing that popped in here was the land purchase over by the middle school. So taking that all into account, our projected fund balance decreased about $260,000, approximately the cost of the land. So it brings our fund balance from about 12.8% down to 11.4%. Again, this is still very conservative type budgeting. As we approach budget modification number 4, things will start to get a lot tighter as everything comes into more focus in terms of utilities and some end-of-year costs. So that is budget amendment number 3.
Any questions for Tracy? I would accept a motion to approve budget amendment number 3.
So moved.
Support.
And this is a roll call vote. Mr. Ott?
Aye.
Mr. Scaletta?
Aye.
Dr. Beckrow?
Aye.
Mr. Bushu?
Aye.
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Mrs. Von Koenig?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Moving on to personnel. Mr. Eating?
Yes, the notice that I gave in my superintendent report about Dr. Powell and Mr. Yaksetter resigning, those are 2 big openings that we have on the books right now. Want to really, again, express our gratitude and wish them both the best as they move forward in their adventures. Kind of fun. New hire. I don't know, Julie, do you want to talk about this one?
Sure do. We have secured our first new hire for the school year. So we have a few postings right now. This is a high school math position. Sarah Blazik has accepted our position. She received her bachelor's degree from none other, I stuck that in, the University of Michigan. And her master's from Michigan State. But Sarah is a Lakeshore graduate and has been teaching in Berkeley, Michigan for, I would say, about 6 or 7 years. She was a rock star. She killed it in the interview. We kind of thought she would. Not everybody at the table knew of her, even though she graduated from here. But those who did couldn't say anything best, and she was awesome. She was great for me to talk to that night, the next day. So her, it's kind of one of those things, like she's in a good district, she's really well liked there, doing really good there, but no family of her husband's or hers lives there, so they decided to come back to Lakeshore. And we said this at the table of the interview. Somebody said, whenever we've bet on our own people, it's paid off for us, and it really has. We had one in the room that we did that for. We just kind of look around, and every time we invest in a Lakeshore graduate, it's paid off. So we're really excited. It's not easy to fill any of our positions, but she's going to be great. So Sarah Blazek.
Great, thank you.
And Sarah was a Klug.
Yes.
Oh.
Sarah Klug.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, administrator and director contract renewals.
Yeah, so I recommend that the following administrators and directors be employed for the 23-24 school year. Tracy Althouse, Mike Voda, Greg Younger, Susan Toothman, Allison Aaron, Natalie Maserata, Rachel Kinzel, Samantha Lantis, Pam Griffendorf, Nick White, Stacy Sevis, and Chris Quartermain.
So moved.
Support.
And this will be a roll call vote. Mr. Ott?
Aye.
Mr. Scaletta?
Aye.
Dr. Beckrow?
Aye.
Mr. Bushu?
Aye.
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Mrs. Von Koenig?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
That it?
Okay, yeah, now bid approval requests. I hear we've got some interesting ones tonight.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. So the first is we have 3 bids that have come in, and one is for auto service, electric vehicle, and diagnostics. The only bid received was from Megatech Corporation. It was to purchase 2 operational Toyota Prius chassis with faults and diagnostics in 1 EV high voltage training module. We're only asking the board to approve 1 chassis, which will offer hands-on skills for a hybrid vehicle to our CTE automotive students. It's the amount of $34,295, and it will be covered by CTE funds. So these are all pass-through CTE funds from the Berry and RISA, not coming out of our general fund.
So our first donated car was an Olds Toronado, front-wheel drive. And that was here before I got here in 91. So now we've gone to a Prius, so, okay.
Yeah, well, this is not a donated vehicle either.
I see that. We've
Board members, any questions? I would accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
And this will be a roll call vote. Mr. Ott?
Aye.
Mr. Scaletta?
Aye.
Dr. Beckrow?
Aye.
Mr. Bushu?
Aye.
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Mrs. Von Koenig?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
And then the next one is an augmented reality welder. So bids were requested for 4 augmented reality welders before we learned that Berry and RISA's CTE funds would cover just 1 welding system. Of the 3 bids received, Operations Director Nick White recommends we enter into a purchase agreement with Purity Cylinder Gases Incorporated of Angola, Indiana, to provide 1 augmented reality welder and the alternate TIG pedal and case in the amount of $28,380. Purity is able to hold the unit pricing offered and is the lowest bidder that offers regular local service.
Any questions?
What is an augmented reality welder? Nick's not with us tonight. Oh, there he is. Okay.
You can see what you're welding, and the advantage is normally you can look at a weld and say, it's a good looking weld.
Yeah.
But unless you x-ray it, you don't know how good the penetration is. This will actually grade your weld on a 1% scale. So you and I can compete. I can get a 70, you might get a 90, and it will tell you exactly what you did wrong. Wrong angle of the handle, pushing the weld, pulling the weld, not enough motion back and forth. Whatever you're doing wrong, it's using the tips, so it allows you to really know you're doing a good job.
Very good.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Safety issue, too.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Without getting burned. That's right.
Tracy's
No
got it.
sparks.
Tracy.
Actually, I wasn't going to answer that one, but this bid and the next bid, well, we would like to do a modification on both of these bids. I was called by our CTE gentleman this afternoon. They are trying to secure funding for the remainder of these at this same bid price. So they're hoping to know within the next couple of weeks. So these bids would the vendor who's approved them or who bid will honor the price. So we are asking to approve the entire amount contingent upon successful funding that's not coming out of general fund. So we are asking tonight for the approval of what would be covered with the 61C money from Barry and Risa. We will put those purchase orders in right away, but we're also asking for the augmented welder as well as the lathe from Mr. Smith, that it is approved as the total package. But again, we would not put the purchase orders out for the difference until we have secured that funding, which we would let the board know that, yes, we've secured the funding and we'd like to purchase from now.
CPE money.
So on the welders, the one is covered, you're looking for approval for $85,140 contingent upon funds being secured
Correct.
through other funding sources, correct? And then the tool purchase for the lathe, how many are you looking for, two there?
There's two, actually, there's 4 pieces of equipment. 2 are lathes and I think 2 are mills. And we're asking for 1 lathe right now and contingent, successful, again, money on the 2 mills and the lathe.
Do you know what the total is? What the
I would
additional,
ballpark it around 90 grand.
additional?
Correct.
So an additional 85,140 for the welder and 90,000 for the tool purchase, for the lathe, correct? Additional money?
So around 90 and 90, correct.
Okay.
And what other funding sources are they looking at? Can you give me an example?
Sure. One, they have asked the LEF for funding. I'm not sure where that's at right now. Is there in their decision-making process? They've also asked for some donations from some of the other companies in the area. I'm not sure where they're at with that either. They're trying to secure funding for it though. There is also a possibility. What happens is Barry and Risa puts this out to all the districts. So all the districts have a chance to say, hey, can we have this much of the pie? That's why the wish list was 4 or 3 and they're getting 1. What typically happens in early June is that I'll get a call from Barry and Risa saying that we need to spend X amount of money.
Because not all of that pie was taken up by the requests from the local
Correct.
districts.
Correct. So that's the type of funds that we would use for this, so.
So we need to amend our motion then?
Yeah,
correct?
but the wording's a little bit tricky. My question, Tracy, is what, we're like, what, 4 weeks away from our next board meeting, 3 weeks away from our Facility and Finance Committee meeting. Is there any, and this is just kind of, I'm just throwing this out here. So more like, is there any thought process on doing this as one recommendation and approval and waiting until the next board meeting to do the other? Or would that be 2 separate bid pieces out there?
It could be 2 separate bid pieces, because typically bids are, these type of things will only last for 30
Yeah.
days. So
Okay.
It's going to be really close to that 30-day window. They may hold it, they may not.
Okay.
So I may have to come then and ask for
Well, either way, they're already willing to hold it
for
for a little while
couple
anyway,
weeks, so-
right? So, all right.
We could, just a question, on page, was it 57 in our
Packet.
agenda today? Yeah, it has the tool purchase at 109,187.57. Is that the total amount that we're looking for?
That would be the total if we received additional funding.
Okay. So that's the amount for that one, Kevin.
So I think the wording on the motion would be 2-part. We can approve it as one motion, I think, but the contingency would be, so the motion would be the bid from Megatech Corporation to purchase 1 fully operational Toyota Prius chassis, faults and diagnostics, 1 safety training kit, and the amount
No,
of...
we already did that one. We're
Oh,
doing
I'm sorry.
each one individually.
Sorry, I was backing up, I went too far.
Gotcha.
So the bid from Purity Cylinder Gases for the augmented reality welder, the alternate TIG pedal and case in the amount of $28,380
So
be
the-
accepted.
So the total amount
In
for that with
addition-
the addition would be 113,520.
Yeah, and then an additional $85,140 be approved contingent on funds being
Securing a sufficient
secured
funding.
prior to purchase.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is everyone okay with that?
We have that, Sue? We good with that? Okay.
Okay, then I
So-
would entertain a motion as Kevin just said it.
So moved.
Support.
And this would be a roll call vote. Mr. Ott?
Aye.
Mr. Scaletta?
Aye.
Dr. Beckrow?
Aye.
Mr. Bushu?
Aye.
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Mrs. Von Koenig?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Okay, then how do we need to reword the third?
So the robotics, the bid from Depco Enterprises for a lathe and supporting equipment, the amount of $34,100.60, be accepted as recommended, and also approve an additional amount of $90,000, up to $90,000, for the remaining equipment pending financing secured through other sources.
Okay. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
Does that fit your needs, Nick, Tracy? Yes. Okay, then I would entertain a motion
So moved.
Support.
and a roll call vote. Mr. Ott?
Aye.
Mr. Scaletta?
Aye.
Dr. Beckrow?
Aye.
Mr. Bushu?
Aye.
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Mrs. Von Koenig?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Please pass along our appreciation, not only to you two, but to the teachers. I know, just like our classroom teachers, they all put a lot of time into finding funds for projects and things to move our classrooms forward above and beyond the general budget. So thank you to all those teachers and administrators that put all those hours in.
Thank you.
Okay, recommendations of the superintendent, out-of-state trips. We've got a couple of opportunities coming up.
So the first is our high school MSC juniors, Math Science Center juniors. We have a request from the High School Math and Science Center teacher Jill McNabney for the MSC juniors to take a one-day trip to Cedar Point and Sandusky for Physics Day on Friday, May 12th. They will be collecting data using accelerometers on roller coaster rides and then analyzing that data when they return to school.
Do they need chaperones?
I was just going to say, that might require some board oversight.
Any questions?
So moved.
Support.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and one more.
The 8th grade class would like to travel to Six Flags in Gurnee, Illinois for a one-day trip on Saturday, June 3rd for their end-of-the-year celebration.
Always a fun time. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, this brings us to public comment time, and we have 4 people signed up for public comment, but I don't think that they're all here. Just to be sure, Keeper Van Horn Williams, Nate Williams, Jackie Van Horn. And board members, I did forward you all an email from Jackie Van Horn. She had signed up to be here, but didn't know if she would be able to make it. I sent that to your LPS Lancer email addresses, so be sure to check that. And Jeff Coates, you can approach the microphone. And we do have a 5-minute time limit on public comment, so I will start when you do.
No problem. I just wanted to come in tonight. I have a child he goes to Roosevelt Elementary. I've had discussions with Greg and with Rachel both. My question is, first of all, maybe Greg can answer this, what normal procedures are when CPS gets involved. The investigation was not opened up on me. It was opened up on the mother. You're 2 separate households, but if you could kind of explain.
Yeah, we don't typically go into a back and forth with folks who do public comment.
Okay.
That's more of a conversation that I'm happy to have with you at another time if you'd like, but that's not something that at a board meeting we've done before. So.
And we can take a list of your questions and make sure that we follow up with you
And
after
I
the
will
meeting.
be happy to schedule a time to
Okay.
meet with you, which We got that already.
I guess my comments then would be to have a 7-year-old in a room by himself probably is a pretty scary thing. We try to teach our children that, about strangers and that. I have no problem myself as a parent not being investigated on this. With my child being questioned, I have a problem when people aren't held accountable on all ends with all parties. Okay, so maybe, as far as the school board, if we could some way we can work on this, between parents, school board members, faculty, I think it'd be a great thing. I mean, first and foremost is protecting the children. So, but like I said, I wanted to come in here, I talked to both, and that if we could maybe open up something where there's that communication line, I'm absolutely for it.
And once we come up with something as far as our discussion goes, I'll be happy to report that right back to the board.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you, board.
Thank you. Okay, that's all we have for tonight. So can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Support?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you very much. And I remembered all the motions before any of the roll call.